Big bold women, round of applause. Get my goals, women, round of applause. Know my roots, women, round of applause. If they come and get your arm under my sweater. Gonna get a female, betcha, she gon' catch ya. Big bold women gonna come and applaud. Got my back, woman, I do applaud. I'm an FEMALE from the ghetto. Yeah, she got a brain and stiletto. She work fighting now, still got time for the metro. Dancing out the way and forget about the echoes of the ghetto. Got can echo, so she never leave together. Gotta tell them kids the memo, cause in time she gonna let go. She a queen, and you know she.
All right, welcome to episode 3. Black Joy, we are not your token, diversity quotas, and essential worker struggles. So essentially today we will be discussing how companies use Black people to fill their diversity quotas and how it pretty much marginalizes groups of people into not getting a fair opportunity that they deserve. So, and just thinking about diversity quotas and how it's supposed to remove a barrier, and the fact that it fails to do that usually by making Black people into this a tick box into if they fill this quota or not, these companies. So my question for you guys is, what's your thought on diversity quotas and how corporations use these diversity quotas to just essentially have a quote unquote diverse entry staff, but when you move up the ladder or the pyramid, is very much a white male dominated area.
That's a great point, Maty.
Wait a minute! For all of our listeners, before we hop into the content.
Oh. Hi, I'm Demi speaking.
Oh yes. Wait, we have to give a Black Joy.
Yes.
Okay, so guys, go ahead.
Yeah, Black Joy.
Not us being chaotic podcast.
We very much are. Okay.
I think that's the best kind of podcast.
Right.
Kylie, I feel like you're better at doing the joy thing.
Right.
So I'll let you
Our
go
Black
first.
Joy moment for the day. Let me conjure one up. You know what? My Black Joy moment for the day is that I have had how should I say this so I don't hurt nobody's feelings? My Black Joy moment for the day is having a Black friend that I've had since 5th grade. And he's a guy. And I feel like you don't get that a lot. You don't get that a lot in general, but you don't get it a lot within Black households put a lot of pressure on dynamics between sexes or genders. I can't remember the politically correct term right now, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. And I don't know, I look back on that friendship and I'm like, wow, that is it's impressive not impressive, but I appreciate the opportunity of watching a Black man grow. So there we go.
I like that.
I guess because I'll bounce off of that. That's actually really great. I didn't know what to say, but now I do. My Black Joy moment for today, one of my best friends, we've been friends since we were 6. She left to go to school in Minnesota, and she's stayed there ever since. Last time I saw her was right before things got really serious in terms of the US with their mandates, protocols, everything regarding COVID. So it was 2 years ago. So this is the first time I've seen her in 2 years, and we've grown up together, and she knows me more than most people on this earth do. So she's I always had profound appreciation for relationships between women. I think they're some of the most beautiful and powerful things ever. So I get very happy thinking about the relationships I have with the women in my life because they're all amazing people.
That sounds amazing. I'm gonna reiterate what I said earlier just so that we all don't forget it.
Right, yes, please do.
Everybody's story was amazing, Black Joy, love it. Black childhood friendships, amazing. All right, so my question was, what's your thoughts on diversity quotas and how corporations only use diversity quotas to fill their entry-level positions, but then when you go up the ladder or the pyramid, it very much is a white male-dominated fields.
So the first thing I thought of is that TikTok sound that goes around where it's like, blank, why aren't you saying anything? And they're like, it's because I'm the only N-word in here. And I feel
I,
like that, like, oh, go ahead,
I was
Demi.
gonna say I posted that to my story yesterday.
Yeah, it's so real because, like, especially in the workplace culture, I think we talked about this in the first episode. Like, girl, I'm not trying to talk to you. We don't have nothing to talk about. And it makes it hard, like it makes it a very uncomfortable environment to like actually get your work done, if that makes sense. Like, especially when like my former employer, I'll say, well, I won't just say my former employer, I say when working for universities, you can feel like this little token thing. It's like, oh, a certain university has me on an ad right now, and I'm very appreciative of it. But I'm also like, okay.
It's because they're selling a lie. They're selling a lie. They're making it seem like, and that is what is the most frustrating, is you're selling a lie. You're putting people on like billboards on 76 going into the city, in your like pamphlets and brochures. But it's like, how many of these students of color that are like all perfectly representing like all these different backgrounds, how many of them are receiving equitable funding, equitable resources, access to mentors and professors that actually represent them and their identities? It's like, it's not really there. And so much research shows that like Black students, particularly Black women on average, receive less funding than their white counterparts. And that's why the retention rates for Black women in graduate school are so low, because it's like it will burn you out. And so, yeah, just to kind of support everything that Kylie was saying.
I also, y'all know I be worried about defamation, so I be trying not to say any names, but I know someone who works for a company, nice in general, and that company's recent hiring practice is to just interview at least one Black. Okay, just one, not hire. Okay, not recruitment retention. Just get one Black interview. And I'm like, that tells me a lot about what this workplace look like. Cause you don't even have a commitment to hire one. You just talking about some, let's waste their time with an interview.
You know what's crazy? Recently, I interviewed for a position, and for some reason, I felt that was the exact reason that I was interviewed for. But I wanted to comment on Kylie being on billboards and being plastered everywhere. The amount of ads I've seen of Kylie, like
Everyone sends it to me.
I see her everywhere, and I'm like, there's literally 4 to 5 Black students in our program, not in our program, in the entire major.
Yeah.
But in our specific like program, it's only 3. It's us 3, I believe.
Well, no, there are
In our third
there
year, in our
are
second year, I mean.
there are 5 of us technically.
Technically.
Yeah. In the program, because there's us, then there's Lean,
Oh yes, and it's
then there's
Oh yeah, because
Cassie.
Cassie's technically.
Yeah,
cool.
technically, she's like, yeah, but Cassie's not here right now.
All right, so we got a solid 4.
Yeah,
Not me being like,
wait, we can no,
wait
but
a minute, sounding like the
But
the administration. I'm like,
that ad, it fascinates me, and this is a little outside the workplace, but I wonder if it'll rotate because there were several students a part of like that like ad cohort. There were like 5 or 6, so I wonder if like I don't know if all the people that know me just so happen to see it, but like I wonder if they'll start plastering someone else's face. And like I said, I appreciate it. I appreciate the hype. I love it. I hope the hype gets me a job at some point. But for now, it's just like just me. I'm like, share the love. And the love's not being shared, it's not being shared with people of other colors, I'll say. So that, but we know how your universities are with their diversity quotas.
yep. I remember being so geeked when I saw your face on the list of like Dornside Fellows, But then I was so sad when I went to like preview. Oh, wait.
I mean, it is what it is. It ain't a secret where we go. We just be trying. We be trying for the listeners, especially if you are a higher up at this university. Yes. We love Drexel. We do. We appreciate Drexel for all the things they've done for us.
So much.
We appreciate Northside.
So much.
We are just identifying our experience in such an environment. That's no harm to the university.
No, which is important because I think that that's a lot of the effort, you know, is trying to elevate voices of marginalized communities. We see that a lot, so we're aiding in that, sharing our
speaking our truth, looking for some clarity. That's all.
Yeah.
We just want to know if the ad's gonna rotate.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of showing the one Black student that has, and you know,
yeah,
diversity.
Yes.
But the previous 100%. Year fellows, Demi, I think you're gonna say something that I also noticed is that I think there's one. I'll say two. To be respectful, I'll say I believe there are two people of color who are a fellow of my cohort.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked at this year's cohort, but the previous years wasn't too colorful.
And they have years going like 5 years back. So sorry. Going 5 years back, and I was just like, okay, it's interesting. And so it makes you wonder, it's like if George Floyd's murder didn't occur, right? If that movement, like, would we be seeing what we're seeing now?
I mean, would we be seeing diversity workplace quotas?
Exactly.
Or would we still be arguing about affirmative action?
Exactly. So it's just giving very much so. And I think that's our entire culture. And it's part of why our healthcare system could use revamping. We're very reactionary. We allow things to boil over to the point that it is. And also with climate change and right now what's going on in Ukraine. I know I'm taking it very like far, but it's just like, yeah, we always wait until it's too late, and then it's at the detriment of not just like other people but ourselves, because it doesn't really, we move in this circle, we don't actually move forward.
But I think diversity quotas in the healthcare industry, that workplace, first of all, they are a buzzword, so to speak. Okay, then it's like, and excuse my language, if you get there and you're working at a certain large system of hospitals and you're being treated like shit, are you staying? And then if there are 5 people of color and 100 staff and 70% of your patients are people of color, how is that working? How is that dynamic working? It can't be. It is not like, I don't even think if we're gonna be at that point, why diversify at the entry level? Why do it if you're only gonna do it at the entry level, if you're only gonna color the bottom of the pyramid and the rest of the pyramid is white, what's the point? Because the rest of the pyramid is washing out the bottom.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting that you brought that up, just because like while I was doing a paper for this class, I noticed, like, I was like, let me look up the diversity in Philadelphia compared to diversity at Drexel. And Philadelphia has like a almost 50% population of Black Americans, or just our Black people. And in Drexel I believe it's 7%. It's 7% Black people at Drexel, and you can very much count them in each program. In each major, you can count 1, 2, 3.
And
Drexel is known for having this problem. I'm so sorry. A lot of Black people don't go to Drexel for undergrad, and then even if they do, a lot of them leave to go to Temple or like elsewhere. And it's because like it's not a very comfortable environment attending Drexel as a Black person. It's not comfortable at all. Like I don't know how people do it like for like years. Like I'm only here for 18 months, but like doing that for 4 years during like what are like still kind of formative years would really, it would be a blow to my own like self-esteem and identity and self-worth. Like it is very demoralizing to be a Black person attending a predominantly white institution.
And I'm so glad, Maty, you specified Black Americans, because this was a conversation we had with another one of our friends, y'all. And I think where is she from? Are her parents from Nigeria?
Yeah, she's Nigeria.
All right. And I think there's something to be said about university and workplace environments that have this affinity for Black people who are not from America. Because you will bust your ass to have these exchange students, exchange postdocs, exchange faculty, but you will ignore the 40-something% of Black people that were born and raised in Philadelphia. And that's not just for Drexel. There are several institutions in Philadelphia who behave that way. Namely, one of them who was so-called known for recruiting students and faculty from the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden did a 180 and is trying to gentrify that neighborhood.
I was gonna say one thing I will say thank you to my parents for. I know my name. They be looking, they're like, ooh. They're like, wait a minute. Me, I'm actually from Collegeville, Pennsylvania. I'm from them, a little ethnic. They're like, ooh, what are you? I'm like, from
They
Pennsylvania.
love to be like, we got faculty that represents 32 countries. No, you don't.
They'll be
They
like,
never
oh, you're born
do.
there. They'll be like, I'm actually from Trenton. Like, I'm from New Jersey.
South Jersey, actually. But like, it's really sad to see that, just because I think they don't realize that if they skip over their own populations, it's not really bringing like the people that are from that neighborhood into their schools. If you're going out of if you're going out of your own country to get other people to diversify your own school, which already has a diverse neighborhood around it, what is the point of that? You're clearly just trying to meet your quotas without actually getting the people who live in the area like they're what they deserve, the schooling and the education, as well as the faculty positions that they are qualified for.
It's also presumptuous because they're like, oh, we're like helping them out. It's very much so giving like savior complex. Talking to another one of our friends, she's like, once I finish this program, I have to go back to home, like where I was born and where she was raised and everything like that, because ICE are like on top of her currently. And then she said, I'm actually fine. She's like, at first I was really sad, but I realized I don't like America's not a country worthy enough for me to beg to stay in it. And I'm like, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. I'm like, that's so I'm like, it's so presumptuous to think that like they think that they're doing this and it's gonna like be good for them. It's like, look at your own country and communities first and see how you can help support them.
Because I think my blood pressure would be a lot lower if I didn't live in a certain country.
Literally.
But Maty, I did want to answer your question about if diversity quotas are effective in diversifying companies past the entry level, because like I will humble myself by saying that there are many people in this world that are more qualified than me and have certainly done more than me by my age. But I will also be honest in the fact of saying that I'm also more qualified than many people my age and have done more than many people my age and have done more than my peers of a different color than me, but yet my peers of a different color than me will still get hired before me. And what I don't understand is when you are sitting in this HR office or whoever first looks at the resumes, why don't you just cut off the name? If we just looking at accomplishments, I'm getting hired, not Connor. Like that is what, like, you know, like that's not hard.
That's what irks
You don't
me.
have to have a quota.
I think it's because we don't have the audacity to assume that like we will bend over backwards like I didn't even have the audacity to assume that I could get into this program. Like I genuinely didn't. I genuinely didn't. And then I look at some people, no disrespect, I look at some people that are in this program and I'm like, I don't know why I thought that.
Bending ourselves into pretzels, trying to make ourselves look good.
Yeah, and I was so burnt out after my first year. I felt guilty taking the second year for myself. And the way that people then like kind of looked at me. They were surprised that I'm like no longer like burning myself at both ends. I'm tired, grandpa. Like I'm tired.
I don't want to do this no more.
I have burned myself out so hard just to stand in the same, not to sound like Viola Davis in Fences, but just to stand in the same spot as you. Like I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's wild because you guys said that like about getting into this program. I applied to this program 100% like in my mind thinking I'm not gonna get in. I'm just I feel let me just send an application. It's not like I'm actually gonna get in. It's not gonna hurt me. If like it was not even in my mind that I was actually gonna get in. And when I got in, I was shocked. Like physically shocked.
And we're dealing with the same thing.
Exactly.
Applying to jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm not gonna. They'll apply for jobs. I forget the statistic, but it's like white guys apply for jobs that, and I don't want to misspeak, but I think the number was like they only have 70% of the qualifications for, as where we be applying for jobs that we got 100% of the qualifications for and still be like, I might not get it.
Like,
come on now. You don't need a quota.
That's what I mean. Some people will literally like they'll be like, all right, you need this, this, and this, and you'll have more than that, and you still won't even get your foot in the door. They'll be like, you don't even pass the phone screening. Sorry. Whereas little Bobby has never even walked into a research lab, and he gets the fucking job.
Off potential. Someone who works in human resources once said to me, white men get hired based off potential, black people get hired based off what you've already done.
And that's facts. Which is very
like there's
sad.
nothing more demoralizing than scrolling through like a link like your LinkedIn feed and being like, oh, like weren't we just struggling yesterday and y'all got a job already?
Like all of a sudden the people struggling have diminished and it's just the Black people struggling. Yep. All right, so I wanted to ask a question because we were talking about entry-level positions and how usually these entry-level positions are in essential jobs. So from the last 2 years, we've been in the COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately, for who knows how long, and it's never ending. And Black people haven't had a choice in keeping these jobs, and they are working to like risk their lives every day. And these companies are actually pushing to keep them just because they know that they have no other option. This is their only option right now. They are risking their lives every day. So what do you guys think about this essential job, like pretty much the same question, essential jobs, entry level, and how it's just manifesting at the bottom, but not really like going up anywhere because they are essential workers, but then they don't care to even give them the props that they need.
I don't know about y'all. I don't know where y'all went to school. I actually do know where y'all went to school. I don't know what your cafeterias look like. Okay. My cafeteria, why is it always an old Black lady serving me? Y'all don't hire nobody else to serve food?
It's so weird. My college, every single person that worked in the dining hall at my college was Black.
Huh? What I think happened during the pandemic was all the schools that had decided to stay open or reopen early or keep people on campus or the hospitals or whoever, you got all these Black and brown people serving food, cleaning hallways, taking the trains, risking their lives when the senior ups was at their beach houses quarantining. I didn't know this many people had a beach house till we all had to quarantine.
Yep. I was like, wow, everybody got a beach house in wherever, Long Island or
Long Island,
down the shore.
Exactly.
Down the shore, in the mountains.
OBX, OBJ, whatever they call it.
Oh my God, they stay with them bumper stickers. I remember it wasn't until I was 16 that I knew what that shit meant. I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
I still don't know what it means like that, for real. All I know is that's where they all went to quarantine. Well, everyone else's grandmother, great aunt, uncle of color was here cleaning every inch of every hospital and dying.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to realize that, like, because you mentioned that, I was thinking about how one of my my close friends, they lived in New York, and you know how New York has like no space ever, and she was just noticing how like everybody all of a sudden when it was time to quarantine, they all had like a little house off in the suburbs. They were mostly white, and they all had a little house in the suburbs where they could quarantine. Meanwhile, their family had to stay in the city and with no choice because they don't have that generational wealth that most white people do.
And that's what irks me. People will be like, no, like we're like the same background. They're like, oh, I'm not privileged or wealthy. I'm like, your grandma has a beach house. What do you mean you're not wealthy? My grandma didn't even like go to high school. Like the and it's giving different energy for sure. And that's what irks me when people like when you're talking to people and they're like, we've all been hit by the pandemic. It's like, please get out of my face. Like, and that's what's so frustrating. It's like you are taking a surface level approach and understanding to what is this systemic problem that has been exacerbated by a pandemic that is wiping out black and brown people, really particularly like if we're going to focus on black joy, black people um throughout the United States, throughout the world at disparate rates. Like it's just insane to me. And that's what bothers me. Like this assumption, like we're all in this together. It's like, can we not do that? Like that's not how you can show your support. You can show your support in saying that you understand that this is going to impact communities that are marginalized far differently than communities that you belong to. That's just like it's just nice when people accept that and they're like aware of things. But yeah.
It's really just been let the blacks die from the jump. Okay, that's what it's been. That's all I learned from these essential job deaths because it was unnecessary, not needed, ridiculous. Ridiculous is what I say.
And why are we're still opening up these schools? We're still just being like double mask, put your hand sanitizer on, let's go. Like no.
Wildest thing I think was when they sent us an email before they opened up for winter quarter, and they just told us, oh, we're still opening, but just double mask or get the new masks, but we're not going to provide them, but get the new masks and just make sure you come to class. It's just like it's just this disconnect between the people in your company or your university or in any kind of program that you're running and the people who are actually like running it.
Ridiculous.
All right, I wanted to talk about tokenism now. And all right, so let's just dive right into that. So how do you think tokenism relates to Black joy? Like, I personally feel like tokenism just destroys it 100%. Because if you are in a position where you know for a fact people are around you, the first thing they see when they see you is just a Black face, and that you just got a position just because they wanted to fill their quota of having a Black person or a Black woman in their offices, it obviously is not going to make you feel like you're being appreciated by your company. So it's not that's 100%. You're not going to have any joy from that. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think for me it annoys me because at best tokenism comes from a place of white guilt at best. At the worst it comes from performance tactics and facetious energy. Um I think growing up, especially, and I'm sure that we can all relate to this on the podcast because we all kind of had like very similar experiences growing up. Very much so felt like a token in a lot of the spaces I was in. I was just like, I'm here. And I think because of the fact that like my parents weren't born and raised in this country, like I didn't think about it that much until I got older. But I was like, yeah, that was actually like kind of exhausting. That was actually kind of tiring. Like I was just raised to, like keep my head down, do well in school, don't raise any, ruckus. That's it. But yeah, that was exhausting, and I don't think I realized the toll it took on my mental health until I got older, and I kind of all like fell down around me because I was able to finally like stop for a second and look at everything. Um, and I think it's even worse like in the Northeast because everything is like very covert. Like no one's gonna call you any slurs to your face, but it's like it's a lot more sinister. And because of that, it's hard for you to like ever say anything. So you feel like you can't. Like you're gonna be the one that's causing drama, or you're gonna be like the angry Black person, the one who's always making everything about race. So you're like, let me just shut the fuck up and dance and be pretty, shuck and jive and do whatever they want me to do. Um, so that's why I think it's related to joy. Yeah, I'll talk more about, I guess, later because I actually want to hear what you guys have to say. I'll talk more about how it can be nice to reclaim tokenism to like advance yourself in certain ways, but it's only beneficial if
What
you
I'm
don't use it a
saying
lot.
though, that ad is not too bad.
No,
It's
like if you don't
just
lose the plot in
right.
utilizing it for your
It's
advancements
a
and people.
platform,
Hmm.
okay? But I did want to. I think you hit, what is that? Hit the head on the nail. Hit the nail on the head. That's what it is. Cause like when I look at the way some of us grow up in the suburbs, or I guess like predominantly around white people, I think the tokenism is like more than just like uncomfortable. Like reflecting on it when you get out of that space and reflect on it, it's more than just uncomfortable. It's like, well, this is kind of unacceptable, right? Like that shit should have never been happening at the capacity that it did happen, right? Like the treatment and like the microaggressions, like should have never happened. And I think, this reminds me of something we were talking about. We were talking about I think it was our universal healthcare. I think it was last week. We talked about healthcare and abolition, and they brought up how like companies be doing that rainbow flag for Pride Month, black ads for black, time to bring the black out because it's February, stuff like that. But I
Yeah,
think
flex.
about like those people that we were surrounded by that tokenize us. They grow up and they run those companies, and that's how we get this cyclical, like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you're not your grandfather that tried to enslave me, but you not too far from the tree, okay? Yeah, like this, you're not too far from him. So don't, absolve yourself of, like you said, the stigma associated with just like having a black person in the space. You are not absolved from racism because you hired one black person or you got one black friend or, you know, Drexel's not the only one. I mean, this is just city schools across the country that like you put a few blacks up on a billboard and it absolves you from your gentrification? Question mark.
And even the communities that are like so embedded historically in cities, they like even with the most push and resilience, they're still getting gentrified, they're still getting pushed out.
They get bought out.
Yeah, like look at like Temple, like look at North Philly. It's
Taxes get raised.
Yep, it's still
Rent
vastly
goes
different
up.
than where Drexel is, but it's happening. Like, because Kylie and I were talking about how, like, when we were applying to schools, like Temple in 2016, when we were going to school, looks so different and these kids will still go on TikTok. Like, a lot of them are white, and they'll be like, "Oh, like me, like scared to go to a like party in North Philly." I'm like, shut the. Why are you going to school in North Philly if you're scared? Why are you there? North Philly is so like it's not bougie now. Like let me like not get like ridiculous, but it's like it's so much different. Like they have gentrified North Philly for sure.
I think it also speaks to something that we talked about with the climate scientist, the black climate scientist, who, when she was like, I don't have time to like worry about this. I think there's a very similar, like, I don't, how much joy can you have when billion-dollar universities are trying to buy your house? Like, I don't like how much, like, yeah. And I think, the premise of this podcast is that, like, despite all of the, the being adultified and criminalized at a young age and then not having mental health resources, like black people do obtain a extreme level of joy. This goes back to compost. This was what I was ranting about yesterday. It's the white people who can't deal with bad things and they crumble. But I think like black people do, persevere through a lot of that, and people of color in general, but that's a different conversation. The separation between the two. But I think even within that, it's just like, well, how many generations are going to keep up that stamina?
Exactly.
Because quite frankly, I don't want to be friends with you if it's going to steal all of my joy.
That is yes. Sorry, Maty. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I honestly feel like that's so true. Like it's one thing to just be like be friends with somebody, but then it's something else to completely to know for a fact that this person is honestly just using you as like I have a black friend or like oh I know somebody who's in that situation. I'm gonna reach out to them during this particular bad situation that's happening. and act like I know what's going on. Like, I'm here for you. I'll never understand. I won't understand, but I'm here for you. Like, very much weird.
It's so weird. And I don't think they even realize that their actions indicate tokenism because it's like I've even at Drexel, in retrospect, I'm like, did I allow that to happen? Like, I've had some out of pocket shit said to me at Drexel. Like, I've had shit said to me that, like, I'm like, this feels like microaggression. It's giving micro. And it's like from people that are like, they're like, I'm so like, pro-black, like I'm so about equality, like I care about all this stuff. I'm like, okay, like that's really cool, but like your words and your actions, like at an individual level, like outside of research, outside of, the beautiful gates of academia and analyses and buzzwords and your blurb on websites, like outside of that, like who are you as a person? Does that actually indicate that? Because right now, like your actions like indicate that you are able to benefit from perpetuating tokenism because you're comfortable saying certain things or doing certain things without realizing how that can negatively impact and like potentially derail like the mental stability of populations that you apparently care about. Like I've had some just like weird, some like passive aggressive, like sometimes like culturally like inappropriate, and it's always like, oh well, like they didn't like mean to say that, like they didn't know what they were saying. It's like that's all well and good, but like an oopsie for you can be like, for me, like what causes months of like turmoil and discomfort and like just not feeling peaceful in a space that I thought was actually like going to be comfortable for me because like I thought we were cool. It's so weird. And so I'm like, nope, I'm just back to being that token of, I'm like, we're cool. Like, I don't need to be friends with you anymore.
And in the workplace, it's so hard because it's like there's no awareness of it. Like Demi, when you were just like, I didn't realize those things until I was out of that space. Like white people never get out of that space. Like that's their space when they're at home and they're like, I have one black friend, and that's their space when they're at work. And it's like there are 8 people in the office and 2 of them are black. Like something's not. And if we're in Wisconsin where there's like a lower percentage of black people, that might make sense. But in Philly, that don't make no damn sense at all. Not one bit. And I worry. I don't worry actually because I choose not to think about it, but I do wonder if like will we get past quotas and tokenism if white people are never, I won't say all whites because I think sometimes we generalize, but I'll say if the collective white culture can never move past that awareness, if they can never obtain that awareness, do we move past quotas? Do we move past the token friends? Because it's really not hard. Like I remember this little white girl told me she had never saw a black person before me, and she was like 6, and I didn't really understand how. But I'm like, if y'all just went outside and didn't isolate yourselves into these pockets of whiteness, we wouldn't have to deal with quotas. You wouldn't have to say, I have a black friend, because you would go to Target or the park or a restaurant and see multiple black people and actually interact with them instead of just brushing off the essential worker that's there.
That reminds me of areas like Chestnut Hill. We have faculty members, no shade, that live in Chestnut Hill. I'm like, that tells me all I need to know. Very sorry, but that tells me a lot I need to know. Like it's giving disconnect. It's giving complete and utter disconnect.
And
And
Chestnut Hill is
also,
weird because it's a pocket.
exactly. And certain things like
Pocket of
Kylie, like you
whiteness.
saying that, it's like every, like there are certain things and words and actions that like may not impact them this or carry like the same cultural, social, or historical significance that it will hit us. Because like when someone says like let's say like someone says like I'm unprofessional, in what way? What did I do that was unprofessional? Because that word for black women in the corporate space carries a lot. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna let someone say I'm unprofessional. What like, and it's just like, but like if them hearing that, they're like, oh, okay, like that just means I have to step up my work. And them being unprofessional is them like snorting a line of coke, like in the bathroom. Like that's unprofessionalism. Whereas the black person, it could be because
I mean, we gotta publish this podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just mean, and then for a black woman, it means like maybe like you accidentally like a button on your shirt accidentally like unbuttoned. That's and you
But
were
if we tell them the truth, these are the standards.
it's and that's what sorry, like I'm getting so heated,
Because
but
drug
just
tests are
genuinely
biased as hell, but we're
I'm
not gonna get into
tired.
that today.
It's giving tokenism because the token has to be perfect if you're gonna be a token. If you're gonna be a token, you better be the shiniest,
Hey,
Hey, that was
classiest, prettiest token.
and that connects to last episode, how Black girls are held to a higher standard their whole entire lives. Because if I'm gonna be your token, let's be real. Drexel didn't just pick any Black person to put on the ad. It's always very strategic. The token isn't picked by picking a random number. They don't close their eyes and hold their finger out. This token is strategically picked. It's been thought about. It's been planned. It's been meditated on. It don't happen, it's a reason.
I'm just thinking about, I'm sorry, like I know we have to publish this. I'm just thinking about how they like rotate us. Like I'm like, I see the same names on like on emails. I'm just like, y'all just rotating.
How many times you gonna tell me about the Idea Fellows, the Ubuntu Institute or Ubuntu Center? I think the center is gonna be really cool. Again, no shade to Drexel. We appreciate the university, blah
No.
blah blah. But I gotta see more than the "We stand with you" emails.
Exactly.
I need some action behind
It's
it.
it's giving too little, too late.
It's giving research has shown that.
market research. Very much. I think it's all at the end of the day, like they love to say, at the end of the day, most of these institutions, like Kylie was saying, they have to have the perfect person represent their Black mind, the Black people at their institution. It'll be 8, they can have 8 students at that school that are Black, but they will only push one of them because that's the person that they've chosen to represent their entire population. You know what I mean?
And the minute you step out of line, they're like, back. They say, back, Negro, back. And I'm like,
I was just about to bring this up because I don't know if you guys have seen Harlem. I don't know if our listeners have seen Harlem, but if you haven't, it's a pretty good show. Believe it's on Amazon, so not so great, but but basically there's this situation where it's a young Black professor, and she works at a prominent New York institute, figuratively in the show, and the person that she basically, her boss got fired because of something controversial, which wasn't that bad, but they fired the white lady who loved the Blacks, basically, and they brought in a Black person. And that Black person was like, I can't promote you because you're not good enough to represent all of the other Black professionals. Right. Just wait. And she was like, if I promote you and you've had a few bad days, that reflects badly on the entire population of Black professors. And I'm just like, that's the standard, right? Like, okay, you get your token. Okay, you got companies, because we rail on these universities, but we only do that because we're speaking from a student perspective right now. But I'm sure that will change when we get into the real world and we'll find new companies to talk shit about. But you got these companies, these universities, you got city. The city is not exempt from their hiring practices. And you got them doing all of this, and they get their token and they get their few Black people, but it's very rare that we acknowledge the pressure that's put on the token. Because like you said, the token has to be perfect. And if the token's not perfect, they're going to be like, see, look, we tried to hire one Black and it didn't work out, so we can't hire anymore. We can't. You see what happened? You see what happened with Kylie? You see what happened with Demi? So we can't hire Maty. You saw.
I'm so happy you said that, because it's like the fact that you almost, like, it's not even almost, you can't be human. Like the minute you make a misstep, the minute you're late, the minute you send an email, the day after you said you were gonna, like, all this stuff, it's like, I'm
They'd
just
be like, immediately
not.
no.
Yeah, immediately no. I've seen what I needed to see.
You're done.
You're done. And it's like, but it's like, oh, like if you're in the position of like, like you're under someone else who's engaging in those actions and they're not Black, it's completely, you just have to grin and take it and just be like, this was no, it's fine.
They'll get better. Oh, it was just a few bad weeks.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's okay. I'm so sorry.
We're all going through a lot right now.
I've been so discombobulated. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Oh my gosh. It's exhausting. Like thinking about it, I look back and I'm like, I don't know why I just didn't say like like fuck it, you know what I mean? Like I don't know why I just didn't say that in those moments. Especially because I've had friends that have been like, that's what you should just say. But like when you're in that moment, you're just like so aggressively like, no, like I need to prove that like I'm good enough. Because like that's the space in which you're so used to like receiving that validation. So like when you don't have it anymore, you feel like you failed, except you're just being a human being like everyone else. But because you've never been allowed that before, it feels like foreign to you entirely.
Yeah. And I was gonna say how the strong black women, like what's it called? Strong black women
Stereotype.
persona
Yeah.
pretty much transitions into that. Like because now we can't even act how we want to act, because we have to be understanding of everything, and we also have to take everything. So we become like a doormat for so many situations where they ask us to do something and we can't even say no, because then if we say no, you're being a bitch, or you're being cold.
Why are you always so angry?
Why are you always so angry? Exactly. It's
I just wanted to help
Fuck
elevate
out of my
you.
face.
I just wanted to give you this opportunity. It's like, no, leave me alone.
it's just like they see that we have so much that we have to prove, in a way, where we black women in general feel like we have so much to prove in these like academic or like professional places, that we do more than we can handle most times, just so that we can fit into this mold that they've created for us, and we're usually pushing and shoving our ways into it.
And if you want to hear us talk more about the strong black woman myth, tune in for our next episode. See how you set us up there. But you're right, Maty. And in so many spaces, people are relying on me. I don't know why. I'm just existing. Okay? Don't know why you got so much faith in me.
Exactly. People will ask questions and I'm like, I don't know.
I can't help you solve racism. I'm
really-
just here.
I wish I
Right.
could, but I can't.
They're like,
I
oh,
don't have the answer.
could you write this, help me do this research on black people? I don't know. I don't know if I can. I'm a little tired.
Right. And so much of this is just like, it comes down to basics. Like when I'm going to work on a group project, I don't go, oh, I need a white to diversify the outcome of the project. I go, oh, I need to be cognizant of what white people go through. Or when I wrote a paper on indigenous people last quarter,
Yeah.
and I didn't say, oh, I need an indigenous to work with me on this paper. I said, no, I need to do the work. I need to read. I need to do the research that y'all love to fund. I need to figure it out. It is my responsibility. I don't hire somebody to fulfill a quota.
We're writing papers on the opioid crisis. That's not really my lane, but I'm here regardless.
I'm not on opioids.
No, that's not really our lane at all, but we're here. In fact, there are fucking Hulu shows about it. About the when are y'all gonna do shows about the war on drugs? Huh?
Oh, if you want to hear more of that, listeners, I'll be presenting on it in a few weeks. You're not all invited, but I'll send you some snippets.
Yeah, so basically, we are not going to be perfect shiny tokens all the time. We're not. It's not sustainable. You're literally causing Black women particularly to work themselves to death. And then even when they're in those moments when they're on the brink of death, y'all don't be hearing them. So don't be surprised when we stop showing up and showing out and we just focus on us, because we deserve it. It's been centuries.
Exactly. And well, Demi, that was a great wrap up to this topic, I think. A good wrap up. So let's hop into next week for our next podcast, which is episode 4. And that is on
the Black woman stereotype that we are quote unquote stronger and more capable than our peers.
All right.
Thanks for sticking with us today, y'all. Hope y'all be enjoying these podcasts as much as we be enjoying talking, because we be getting off here like, damn, we ate that shit up.
We hope it's therapeutic for y'all like it is for us.
Thank you for tuning in. All right. Bye-bye.